Welcome everyone to another episode of Trek Talk with Tech and Kirk. I'm TechMan16. StrangeKirk is LARPing with Chef. But we do have
So you've got Strange Handy.
Strange Handy's here with us. Oh no, Kirk's back from LARPing.
Wait. I see him.
Yeah. Kirk's here, but Kirk's also at breakfast.
Oh, so he's LARPing breakfast. Okay, all right. Sounds like a plan. I thought you were LARPing with Chef.
When I leave this restaurant, I swear to God.
All right, guys, we got a good show for you tonight. Dogs is back. Klingon Accounting has let him out of Rurapente. We're going to talk about him and Chef and how their agreement's going. And too bad Chef is with Kirk, otherwise he'd be on the show too. And then Tiger's here, along with Cook. One of them will talk about any kind of advances that they'll have with 13, whether things are settling in or not. And then we've got NC from Server 9. Gregor's here for a short period of time. They're going to talk to each other about how they lie to one another. They used to be best friends, the best of friends. They used to hang out with their gladiuses together, I guess. But now they're not. And we'll hear from both of them. But first and foremost, Dogs, buddy. How you been?
Good. How are you guys?
Excellent.
Good, man. So, how is it? I know, like 2 weeks ago, you, Chef, Boogie, and Handy were talking for hours, like a bunch of schoolgirls at a slumber party. How'd that work out for you guys?
Well, I think with regards to Chef, unfortunately for you guys, there's no dumpster fire to report. It's been actually pretty good. So when the ceasefire was announced and we marked him as an ally, obviously the players that aren't as active as they came online, it was funny to see the reactions because we've been at war for so long that they just couldn't believe it. But that did exactly what it was supposed to do, and that is make everyone question, well, hey, what's going on? Versus if they see Chef and just blow him up, and then of course the ceasefire being as fragile it is, right? Put that at risk. So everyone pretty much behaved. Chef did. He held his word in the last 2 weeks. And we had a couple players that initially left because they're pretty upset over it. But they came back. And for the most part, during the week, there would be screenshots of someone, let's say, mining next to Chef, and they would comment, "This feels really weird. Like we're still adjusting to it, right? Like you're seriously mining next to Chef, right?" So people are still adjusting. Although I will say that there was a lot of debate in leadership and stuff like that, and it kind of centered around why we as an alliance said no the first time that Chef referenced on the last show, which is, we do still somewhat feel hypocritical in that, it's great that we have a no-hit policy now between each other. And for now, everyone has adjusted to it and like it. But at the same time, we do feel somewhat hypocritical just because of the fact that, we're having basically an agreement with a non-rogue player with regards to that. But
you guys do realize you're not the server police, and nobody's going to give you a cookie for standing up against wrongs in the galaxy.
Exactly. That's
like
what
you're not the Federation, so
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, number one is no one elected us as the server police, number one. And number two is, I do have to, even though it would be nice to extend this ceasefire to maybe a few other alliances, I have to think about, our alliance first. Right. So, and Chef and I have had some brief conversations about, hey, can we expand this ceasefire maybe to include others? But for now, no, that hasn't gone anywhere. So it's really just a ceasefire between MCRN and Chef. And so anyway, but yeah, I had that exact same feeling, Handy, at the end of the day with regards to this.
He's got a lot of naps going with other alliances. I mean, slowly and steadily, he's been adding to his list of friends. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think at some point he'll end up just going row. You know, we're working on it. It's a long conversation, but you know,
Can you believe that the most advice he uses, or the singular piece of advice he uses, comes from Grand Admiral Key?
yeah, I believe it.
Right. When he refers to, did you talk to him? Right.
Yeah,
he loves
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's funny as I say that all the time too, but yeah, it's funny how
Key was the first one who said it on the podcast.
right. Did you try talking to him?
So for now, I mean, there was an adjustment period, right? But I think everyone has adjusted to it. And I mean, yesterday or day before yesterday, for the first time, I woke up in the morning, all three of my miners were still alive. I mean, go figure, so there you go.
Which just means that Dark's not doing their job hitting up MCRN OPL miners. Chop chop, guys.
Or us for that matter.
Right, yeah. God, you've gotten soft.
I know.
And we mine a lot in our TC, right? You go in there and we have miners all over the place.
Oh, yeah. I pick up a bunch of OPL from you guys. I mean, it's like one of my first stops anyway, if I go OPL hunting.
It should be your first stop.
MCRN territory is one stop shopping. I mean, you only have to go to one system and you're loaded up for a week.
Very, yeah, just about.
I'm exaggerating, but
well, I'm happy we can provide a convenient spot. So we're all about convenience.
it's like Costco.
Well, with the amount of things that you have to mine, if you hit a couple of OPL miners, then you're set for that one particular, thing. So you could go use your miners for something else.
It is very helpful to OPL hunt from time to time.
Yeah, to refine for the day, because if everybody's looking for everything to mine, you got your 3 G3s, you got data, you've got your 3 ISOs. Depending on what ops level you are, you got to mine a ton of that stuff. So if you knock out a couple of them using OPL, then it's kind of nice where you could just focus your miners elsewhere.
Right, which is why I've been very reluctant to try and limit, OPL hits. Like there was even talk of just doing no OPL hits in TC area. And, we just decided that's probably not a good idea because there's lots of people like that. That's how they play the game. That's how they get their resources. And to deny them that, I don't think is right.
Yeah.
Well, from my perspective, this is a war game, right? So, and I forget who mentioned it on an earlier show, but I do think when it comes to grow, less is more. And look, if you're OPL, it doesn't matter if it's TC or regular space. In my opinion, you're OPL, so you're at risk. It's part of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Dogs of Peace.
You're at risk of the Cleon coming after you and blowing you out of the sky. That's the risk you take.
Hey, there's a rumor that Handy started that you're only half Klingon. How true is that?
That's an outright lie.
I'm pretty sure it was a reliable source. Just saying. It could be true.
It was a very reliable source. It came from Handy's dogs.
You're both stupid.
My dog Mars told me. I mean,
yeah, that's right. You have a dog named Mars.
yeah.
The only time I depart from the Cleon persona is when I'm Karen in Discord when I'm warning other team members that their base is at risk of being hit. So I send them funny messages. I send them funny messages in Discord that I'm Karen. So one time I said, "Hey, the smoke from your barbecue is going into my backyard, and that's a problem because I'm vegan, and it's making me sick, and I can't even finish my kale shake." Right? So I write messages like that to try to get them to come online to Shield. Matter of fact, we just had one last night, which I'm sure Darius was going to go after, or was it 2 nights ago with one of our team members that had a shield down and no ships in dock.
Yeah, we will find you, or rather, Dark will find you.
I will say this though: if to have any serious conversation with base rating, you got to have Dark on, right? So you guys are the best at that for sure.
That Dark is for sure. Bulldog and Kevin and Darius and Chemo. Fox used to be a big raider too, but I think he's gotten busy lately. So that's for sure. And Nash. Nash might get it back into base rating because the cargo limit has been increased on some of the G4 ships, so you can pull like 4 to 5 million at a time.
Ooh.
Yeah, watch out. Level 50 bros and level 49 bros coming after in server 34.
I was just raiding this morning.
That's right, you were. Oh my god, you were rating it bold. All right, let's Dogs. You got anything else before we move on to Tiger?
No, other than I don't have a single G4 miner and won't unless they like at least double the cargo size, if not more, because I didn't see the need to even get one. Other than
I
that,
completely agree with you. I've got a Horizon with no resources into it, and that's it.
Everybody listen to that man. He is spot on. Do not get a G4 miner.
and Discovery was summoned really put the end to that to even think about it, right? So,
Yep.
but I will say, put a bow in the conversation with Chef. Everything's going good, actually. He has held his word. We had just a couple small issues on our side, but we have held our word, and I think it's going to be permanent. You know, until something goes wrong in the future, which it always does. But for now, we're looking good.
Very nice.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Come back on with Chef, and we'll talk about how things are progressing. That was Dogs of War, everybody. Tiger, where you at?
How you doing, guys?
We went from a dog to a tiger.
I'm pretty sure I actually got one of those messages from Dogs in the brief time I was with MRFM. I remember a Karen message, so that was that was a good reminder. I enjoyed.
That's hilarious.
I hope Dogs is Dogs of Peace or Karen of War is valued in his alliance for those kind of messages.
Hey, Handy, didn't at one time didn't you have a nickname for somebody you called Karen? Didn't you guys and Nona have a particular player?
Yeah, we did.
Who was that? I think I forgot.
I don't want to say.
Oh, could it be the person that we've recently seen coming back and playing the game?
It could be somebody that has recently been playing the game again. Yes, it could be.
Okay. All right.
But, I don't like to spread name calling out there, so.
Yes, you do. That's why you're here.
I 100% support us talking about Urbanator returning to the game.
Well, Urbanator, has been playing the game. I actually reached out to him. For now. I didn't ask him about what his plans are or anything like that, but he did. Briefly I talked to him. He seems to be just wanting to play his game here and there. I don't think he's playing a lot. I think he's just playing a little bit here and there. And he said that he's like got this week off or something of work, and he wasn't busy, so he popped in to play for a bit, and he's not planning to really fully come back. is basically what he told me. So we'll see, though.
Fair enough. I just saw him floating around in rogue space one day, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see him as well. I thought he had quit the game completely.
Well, there's a few people that came back. Trojan came back, Herb came back, and Wraith from MCRN, his account is active.
Yeah, and dry hitting the hell out of everybody.
That's why I said his account is active. I don't necessarily think it's him. I think he might have given his account to somebody, and they're doing...
Yeah, but it seems to be somebody with a chip on their shoulder, but I don't think anybody's tried talking to him. I don't think anybody really cares. Because
He
it's
doesn't
like,
respond to PMs. I tried PMing him.
oh, did you? Oh,
Yeah,
I haven't even
no response.
tried. I just don't care. It's like, the guy's very ineffective. It's like maybe 1/100th of what Chef is capable of. So it's like, oh, okay, well, you want to hit my minors once a week? Go for it, dude. Have fun.
Anyway, I know before we move on, it looks like Dogs may have something to say on this subject since you bring up Wraith.
Oh.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so we were first trying to determine, well, is it him? So we actually sent some PMs also, with no response. But looking at the I guess standings on the resources rated, we're pretty sure, like you said, it is in fact his account, but we're just not sure who the who behind it. But we've sent PMs trying to figure out, like, if it is Wraith coming back or is it somebody else or whatever. But we haven't had any luck contacting him either.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say he gave up his account, or maybe he sold it, and somebody is just having fun with it. That's all I can surmise, because because we have some MCRN members in Dark, and they tried reaching out and they haven't gotten any response back either.
So to whoever you are with that account, respond to your fucking PMs.
Well, and we'll find out who he is eventually. I mean, because we'll probably get a hold of the real Wraith through Discord and ask him what he did with his account, and there you go. That's how it always happens. And we always find out. I mean, the truth always comes out.
What if it was Orion?
it would track. It would track. But I don't think it is.
Well, you never know. The guy's account's level 38 using a Saladin to dry hit miter, so
So whoever talks to this person, if they just all I want to know is this: you don't have to say much. Just let me know if it's broken English.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
All right, thanks, Dogs. Anyways, Tiger, back to you. How's it going with 13?
Things are much the same, I guess you could say. We've been hitting ships for like 2 weeks now, something like that altogether. Feels like, anyways. We've had a lot of discussions about, whether or not this has proven to be effective, whether we're getting anywhere with it. Some stuff has come up internally saying, like, how do we want to proceed? From what I'm hearing, the admirals are going to be meeting here shortly to kind of sit down and discuss things. So I guess really until then, we're just kind of in a position of wait and see. We've had a lot of skirmishes. We've had a lot of fun. A lot of ships have gone boom. Some people have come and gone in their interest in the fight, let's say. But we're just kind of going along at this point, I guess.
I tried to lend my services at one point, but somebody refused to answer my question, so I was never able to jump over. I tried.
I mean, we have that seat there for you. We're keeping it warm if you like. But yeah, there was radio silence. I saw that question, and who knows? Maybe you'll still get a chance.
Who did you send a question to, Kirk?
At Raptor PvP refused to answer my question because I wanted to jump in there so I could lend my services because everyone knows how much I love Jeep.
Oh, I got you. You wanted to. Yeah.
He wanted to blow some ships up.
Yeah.
So the previous podcast,
We just want to get some PvP in.
so on the previous podcast, Jeep wrote a pretty lengthy response.
Yes, he did.
Shout out to Jeep for being such a huge fan. Thank you so much for listening to the show.
Yeah, I echo the statement. There was one part that caught my eye about her really long comment, and then feel free to take a look at the previous podcast and read the comment. I'm not going to read it out here, but there was one part that caught my attention that she said that in order to end this conflict, have Frank message her. Now, Frank's not part of the diplomacy team at DEAD. He's a pretty chill player. He doesn't really talk to many people. His wife Kaylee is a Commodore at DEAD, and I've known both of them for a while because we were together at Wars for a while. But my question to you, Tiger, is why? First of all, Frank doesn't care to talk to her. He's not part of diplomacy. He doesn't want to get involved in the politics of the game. But why did she single him out?
He is flat refused, as a matter of fact.
I think it sounded to me, because I actually asked her, and I asked Jeep, and she told me that it was just somebody that she didn't have any issue with, and it's like picking a name out of a hat. I don't think she had any very specific reason. She just knew that he was there, and it was somebody that she's had not negative experiences with.
I can see that, but I have to contextualize that by saying that that's kind of been her counter demand from the beginning is I only want to talk to Frank. And as I said, Frank has flat refused, said, I'm not getting involved in diplomacy. I'm not going to be the one to step in and do this. And that was from back in the time that we were talking about whether or not we wanted to go to war as an alliance. And we're going to respect our players' wishes. It's unfortunate that that's kind of the name that keeps coming up, or the demand that keeps being made, because we don't feel like we can really, we can't force our guy to do something he's not.
She brought up another name too. She said, well, if not him, then blah blah. I don't remember who.
No, it's the same guy. It's his name in game is Mr. Winchester, but he used to go by Frank.
Yeah, his original handle was like just Frank or something.
Yeah.
No, she mentioned somebody else too, but I'm not going to look it up.
I'll look it up because I can.
At any rate,
I'm not recalling the second one. But yeah, I'd be happy to tell you who if you tell me the name.
All right. I think it's in my correspondence, my
in your personal correspondence.
my novel of communication with Jeep.
Well, all you gotta do, you could also go and did she leave it on that? Did she leave it on that dissertation that she left on the YouTube channel?
Well, that's what I'm looking at, and the only name on there is Frank or Mr. Winchester in this case.
Yeah, no, it was I think a message directly from her is what I'm remembering.
Okay.
At any rate, she's willing to talk because I've talked to her.
Yeah. Well, and I know that.
But I will say this: that Jeep has made some demands that I don't think are going to be received well, and I don't think are reasonable. I had actually asked her, okay, Jeep, so let's say you want Soul demoted, right? So would you be willing to do that? Would you and Soul be okay with a demotion, maybe even just temporary? And she basically told me, sure, but they're going to have to demote. They're going to have to demote two of their guys. which would be Tiger and
Vidar's.
Vidar's Revenge. And I was like, what did they do wrong to deserve being demoted? I don't understand. And I don't think she really gave me an answer, but she just kind of steamrolled over it. But I'm trying to figure out where her head's at. But and I told her my honest opinion. I said, I don't think that's gonna go over well. Like, you know what I mean? Like they
Right.
didn't. I think I told her they didn't do anything wrong. Like there's no evidence here that they did something that merits a demotion. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
like what I'm trying to get through to her is that, it's not tit for tat. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? It's not like, well, if you have to demote one person, they have to demote two. I mean, that's just not how it works. Like you to the whole reason to demote Soul is because he did something egregious, and you know what I mean? It just didn't make any
Yeah.
sense to ask for. It just felt very vindictive,
Right.
like a
Very reactionary.
yeah. And I just didn't appreciate it, and I don't know. It's I hope Jeep listens to this and understands that when she says things like this, I know she may feel that it's actually necessary, but I'd like to believe that if she really sat down and thought to herself about it, would believe that that's a little silly to ask for. And that being true, you're just being a little vindictive, maybe a little, you know what I mean? You're just lashing out.
Well, everyone here knows that I mean, every comment, all the actions, everything like that. It's just a huge emotional reaction with an attempted veil of logic, and so I think everybody pretty much understands that, and I think the only person that doesn't quite understand that everybody knows exactly how predictable that she is, and we can pretty much predict her reactions is her. She doesn't quite understand that everybody's kind of got her pegged and figured out, and we all know how she operates by now because it's a pattern, and it's been an established pattern for a long time. So there's no surprise, right?
I hope this actually benefits her, that maybe she will think about it, before reacting. Don't be so reactionary. Like, think about your decisions and the way you're coming across to other people, and kind of, grow. And it's okay. I'm not trying to attack her. I'm not trying to make, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to insult her. I'm not trying to make anybody think she's a bad person. I don't believe she's a bad person, but I do believe that she can be a little too emotional and a little too reactionary. And it doesn't need to be tit for tat. Things don't need to be equal, you know what I mean, to do the right thing. It's okay to just take pride out of the equation.
That's something that we've talked about a lot, especially over the last couple of days, is, making sure that we keep emotion out of it, that we're not doing this based on our own pride as well. Because there have been discussions that touch on what Dogs brought up earlier, not having been elected police for Galaxy or for decency or anything, operating on our own. We want to make sure that we're actually doing this specifically for, what we've stated this is about. We don't want previous emotion to bleed into it, and that makes it a very touchy thing. We've had to carefully consider our steps because we, like Kirk pointed out, we know what some of the reactions are going to be. It's not that we're trying to egg them on. We just know from experience. We've been there. We've been a part of some of those reactions, both sides at this point. So, we damn sure knew what we were getting into when we started this and what it was likely to look like. But here we are anyways, because like you said, he did something egregious, and we don't want it to be something that just becomes another block and forget some.
And I will say, and I appreciate that you're thinking about that because to be honest with you, I have seen a lot of emotion coming from Dead. And a lot of the reasons for getting into this in the first place were more emotional than logical. So it goes both ways. There's definitely been high emotions. I think a lot of Jeep's conflicts that she's had in this game are because of heightened emotions, not because of really what somebody did. You know what I mean? You guys actually have a decent reason for going after him, but I still think everybody. I mean, we're all human, right? We're not robots, so we're gonna let emotions get in the way sometimes. So yeah, it's just important to keep that in mind.
No, absolutely. There is a lot of spice that has been injected into some things, and there's been definitely a lot of effort put in to try and check that, to make sure that we are practicing what we preach, that we are holding ourselves to the standard that we're expecting anybody else, or demanding from this team. We're doing our best to make sure that we're standing in the shoes we're asking them to. So, we want to approach it rationally. We're hopeful we can have a rational and reasonable conversation about things. It's a little discouraging to hear that the demands are, tit for tat, or if I have to admit that they have to be twice.
Well, I think that was just something she kind of mentioned offhand,
again,
and I'm not too
Well,
surprised.
and I don't want to
But
read.
I
don't
think
want to
I
read
can
part of it.
turn her off that route. She's got to understand that it's just not reality. That's not going to happen.
Well, that's the thing. You got to remember at the end of the day that this is also a person who will, pick and dig and dig and dig and dig at someone, and as soon as they react and she gets the reaction she's looking for, she screenshots it because she enjoys playing the victim. I mean, I don't mind. I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm past that. I'm going to call it like I see it, and that's exactly what it is. There's some sort of issue that she has going on where I don't know, that it gives her the attention that she wants, and so she creates a lot of these situations. And so when people finally react to it, like she's hoping that they do, then she's screenshotting it and she's telling everybody that'll listen. Anybody that's walking past her on the street, she's got to show it to them because the attention that she garners from it. So I also tell people to keep that in mind. It's kind of hard to tell people not to be emotional when all someone does is dig and dig and dig and dig. Eventually it gets to the point where you got to swat at the hand that's digging at you.
I think you guys know, if you've seen any of General Chat this week, that my name has come up quite a bit in a lot of conversations and a lot of different things, and so yeah, I get that part too. I'm just exceptionally stubborn. If I can say, hey, I'm going to do my best not to give you that reaction and continue to be rational and reasonable, one, that gives me the best chance of getting. Sorry, so that might get me the best chance of hitting my objective. Just staying cool and not giving that reaction that I know is being. Don't react to the smear campaigns and the rest of that. It's going to happen regardless of what you do. So just stay on target and get the job done. Get the point across.
All right, so I guess from here on out, we're just going to sit and wait what happens with admirals and Handy, and we'll see what comes of it.
All right, thanks, guys.
I appreciate it, Lurking.
Tiger?
That was LurkingTiger. He's lurking and he's Tiger. All right, let's bring back, or let's go back to our previous dumpster fire conversation with Gregor from Server 9 from last week. He put out some interesting, let's just call it interesting feel facts about the number one alliance on Server 9, BLK. And so the guys listened to it on the server, and he tells me that there was some discussion going on about it in game. And NC is here. NC, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good, man. And are you the admiral of BLK?
I am.
Perfect. Look at that. And Gregor was here earlier, but he had a flight to catch, so he will not be joining us. So we'll have your version of the dumpster fire conversation, and then he can respond next week. How about that?
Well, that works. I mean, it all started out when my Gladius was able to beat his Gladius, and then we stopped being friends. I got my Gladius yesterday, just for an FYI.
Yeah. You like my intro?
Yeah, it was funny. Gregor's a good guy. We used to chat pretty much all the time, so it was. I really enjoyed it.
You were telling me way back when that you guys were good friends, and then something changed, and now you're not so good friends anymore. Well, I'm not going to use the analogy that you used, but what happened there?
Oh, come on. I said it's like I'm like an ex-girlfriend now. He's ghosting me.
Yeah. He used you, and then he left you high and dry.
Nah, it's not like that at all. But it's entertaining. So.
Well, that's why we're here. It's all about entertainment. So I know I was talking to Infinite Key the other day, and he was telling me that some of the things that Gregor said were inaccurate, or maybe they were intentionally inaccurate just to get a ruse out of you guys. But he never gave me a list, and I'm going to shake my fist at him, my invisible fist here. What can you illuminate some of the things that he said that were inaccurate, or maybe need correcting?
Well, it depends. Where do you want to start? I mean, Gregor's the most wonderful, smart, kind player whose only goal is to make sure our server has good health, and he worries about what everybody else thinks and doesn't think about himself at all. Oh, right. Sorry, I'm supposed to tell you guys what's not true.
I don't think he said any of those things. Not at all.
Well, our server's interesting because of low population, and a lot of us have played together for such a long time now. You start becoming like family, so it becomes infighting, and it gets pretty frustrating. We're waiting for some fresh blood to be priority at this point. But
did this start because somebody put pineapple on pizza?
Who told you?
It's just a shot in the dark.
Never put pineapple on a pizza.
We need Dread Pirate Riker. He's a fan of pineapple on pizza. I mean, he'll sing praises of it.
That is so gross. Pineapple on pizza. Ugh.
Well, I'm sorry that now that you've admitted that, I'm sorry for that alliance's new loss.
So, but yeah, he was. So previously, he talked about how he's always had this growing animosity towards BLK, and he's always been in the number 2 alliance. And do you guys feel that animosity from the rest of the server, that you guys are always on top, or is it, something that's, I guess, manufactured by people like Gregor?
It goes back a long ways, like a way long ways, toward back at the beginning of the game for a lot of us. A lot of the players that came in later in the game and created alliances just automatically assume that the top alliance has got to be bad, and there was a lot of rhetoric that created, and Gregor was definitely fundamental in helping fuel that. It just makes the game more interesting, and a lot more drama came about, but we've got a lot of drama out in the last year, and the game's been pretty good.
But specifically in the last year? So what kind of drama came out of that?
Well, let's go to the beginning. So when the game first came out, it was pretty much a free-for-all. Everyone's at each other's throats, can't mine, there was practically no nodes. I mean, imagine Morska with only 3 mining nodes. Anyone remember that?
Morska,
Some of
yeah.
us do. So there was a lot of fighting, and our alliance at the time was, young, and we were fighting a lot of players who were bigger than us. And I like how Gregor brought up the whole CDA thing. They had 5 alliances that were supposedly allied, and their admiral liked to pretend that his fleet was a force to be reckoned with. Funny thing, most of them were the kind of players who just wanted to, do their mining, and that was, but they're pretty much pacifists. A lot of good players came from there. We snacked up, got a few of them, and the other ones went to other alliances. But those 5 alliances just basically trickled down to 1 alliance, and I won't pick on them too much because it's just not nice. But yeah, so we fought, and we fought nonstop, and with the intent of creating a server ROE. This was the biggest mistake, in my opinion, was we fought to end guys dropping the E-hit. We tried to stop E-hitting alliances. So we kept growing and getting bigger. And our alliance of 25 was challenging the top 2 alliances for place in events. And, overall power was getting up there. And it was pretty good. That was when we were all Canadians and Mexicans.
So, wait a minute. Wait, hold on. So you were saying that you guys were fighting to establish a server row? Is that what you were doing? And so
Very
you
much
were
correct.
kind of being server police? Is that the
Unintentionally. So the server ROE kind of started coming about because it was how we wanted to play. And there was quite a few alliances that they wanted something established. And so we just kept going. And people would complain, oh, so-and-so is E-hitting me, and we can't stop them. Can you do something about it? So we would, as an alliance, we would work to, try to end the anti-hitting sprees and calm things down. Again, at the time, not knowing that it was the biggest mistake we were making. So we ended up putting ourselves in a spot where anything bad that happened, if it wasn't us doing it, we were expected to take care of it. But I like how Gregor brought up one of our old members, Zay, who's actually one of the founding members of our alliance. Well, I shouldn't say founding. He was part of a big merge. So there was, this is going to be fun. We had one alliance that was dominant on the leaderboards, one alliance that was super aggressive, and it was run by this friend of ours, Zay, and it was called Wolf. So in our alliance, which was Sect at the time, we fought them all the time. We had Wolf War 1, Wolf War 2, and through all of this, we just kept smashing each other, and the progression was kind of dying out. Well, Zay approached me, and he said, hey, how about we just merge?
Wait, hold on. Before you get to the merge part, what were the wars about? Was it just an empty hit, stealing an armada, base raid? What were the reasons for the wars?
There were no armadas. This is before
That's right.
Armada time.
Sorry, this is way back when. So no
I went
armadas.
way back on this. Yeah. No, there's no armadas. It was just attitudes and the way people wanted to play. They wanted player style. So this alliance was very aggressive, and Zay enjoys the conflict. Now, unbeknownst to me at the time, and knowing what I know now, I understand where he was coming from. He was a big EVE Online player before, so for him, the PvP aspect was huge. So for him, it was all about just going out and smashing ships. And that's a lot of fun. There's no questions there. And we fought back to the point where he realized that he couldn't stop us from defending ourselves, and then they couldn't beat us. And so he approached me and says, well, why don't we just band together and let's make an alliance and just go for it. And we did. And that's kind of how BLK formed.
So Infinite Key just made a point. This was before him and Gregor actually started playing this, what you're talking about.
Correct. So
let's qualify that, because he started playing 5 months after launch.
Yes.
This was happening when there were no shields in the game. Hiving was a thing. There were no armadas. All you had to do was mine, trite, par, and dill. They were G2s, I believe, and very sparse G3s. And so all day you just smashed little ships against one another, right?
Pretty much. And it was a lot of fun. So our alliance was Sect, S-E-C-T. So section 31. And it was a lot of fun because we ended up with a core group of players, about 25, 26 of us. And we managed to somehow pull together from, I don't know, all parts of, in this case, mostly Canada. And you don't realize it until you get farther into the game that you start recognizing certain types of people you want in your alliance, certain kind of thoughts. So we ended up with a group of very like-minded players. And we found out we were also about the same age, mostly mid-40s. So we fought, and this other alliance, Wolf, here that we ended up merging with, it got to the point where it was always a stalemate. We'd fight, everyone would have their aggressiveness, take it out, and it would calm down for a short time. Somebody would always, break a truce, and it was chaotic. It was a lot of fun though. So we merged with at the time, the biggest alliance in the server, did some trimming, and we created what is now BLK. But we still had a lot of friends that were being left out. So we left the alliance in the hands of one of our, sadly, he had to step down from being admiral, but he was a really good friend of ours at the time. And I shouldn't say it, still is. We left the sect with him in his hands, and he started working on rebuilding it. And sect has always been allied, and unlike what Gregor says, we've never said we weren't.
So that's the number 3 alliance, right? That you talked about?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So see, it's all coming together now. This is why I like having people on the show, because then we can learn about new servers.
Oh, the nostalgia, though, it makes me so happy because we had so much fun in those days. Then it went bad.
Infinite Key says that your baby jelly was the terror of the galaxy.
It was one of a couple. Yeah. But those were the good old days when literally a jellyfish and North Star were, the top dog ships.
And now I'm obligated to tell everyone, thanks to my lawyer Emergan, that while you guys were running around with baby jellies, they were running with enterprises at level 26 and all these other ships at various other levels. So just to qualify where server 190 was at the time.
And Enterprise at 26. Oh, you mean us with Enterprises while you guys were at 26?
No. Back in the in the long before global launch, the founding servers of the game, there was no limits on when you can build a ship as long as you had blueprints. So
I did not know that.
Yes, there was, and your Fortunates had a warp range of like 100 or 120, like that, or something before they revamped the game. So there were people on the founder server that were running around at level 26 with enterprises, at like 2 million, 3 million enterprises in those days. And then raiding was basically you got to get a faction miner because you took damage while you were hitting a base, even though the base was depleted. And so you had to use faction miners to keep raiding the materials.
Yeah, those are the good old days. I also remember faction miners could one-shot a station. Well, actually, Horizons could one-shot a station.
Yeah. Way back when. Now you can't do that anymore, right? But anyway, so just a little sidebar, because people tend to say that the single-digit servers are beta servers. And so Emergan's like, no, buddy. We were the beta server. So I just got to bring that up.
Yeah, well, I guess there's a difference between a founder server and then an early launch or a soft launch server.
Yeah,
I believe there was 3 servers before the soft launch, I guess we'll call it, and then I guess it was whatever our server and 10 others or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know the full details. I wasn't nearly invested into this game as much time as I put in now back then, obviously. So.
Right. So, anyways, going back to the nostalgia of having fun way back when, with BLK and Sect merged, they're always allies, right? Key, rather Infinite Key. Right. Here's truth number 1 from. Here's not truth number 1 from Gregor. We never claimed we weren't allies with Sect. We are fully allied with Sect, but we do not run Sect. Okay,
correct.
Fair enough.
Now, Now, Gregor's point on that when he said that was simply because we would always say, no, if you want to have an agreement with SEC, you don't talk to us. They're their own alliance. You deal with them. However, every time we would go to war with somebody as BLK, the other alliance, who most of the time found themselves on the wrong side of the firepower, would start targeting SEC because they were easier targets to them. And of course, they really weren't, but they thought that was a mistake. So they would always drag the sister alliance into everything because, they thought, oh, well, we'll be able to grief more people at the same time.
Well, and if you declare war on BLK and SEC, you have more targets to hit. It's not just one alliance versus one alliance.
Sure, and it's more fun for them, but that ended up costing quite a few alliances. Costing their alliance. Which is kind of sad. Definitely when it costs players, we don't want to see players leaving the game, but it happens.
So, did you have a healthy server population before, or has it just been recent that it's whittled down to maybe about 450?
I want to say on a ballpark, we probably had about 1,500 players at early launch, maybe more. It was very busy. I never mined G2 ever. I had OPC or OPL for all my G2 material. It was wonderful. Who mined? You let other people mine for you.
Yeah. So, do you know what the circumstances were in whittling that population down? Because our server still has a fair amount of players. I can't begin to guess how many there are, but there's plenty of alliances with at least 60 members that are active. On our server, anyway.
I think a big portion of it might have come down to the drama between some of the servers. So when the new groups, people started coming in, BLK had already formed, and we were already working, on leaderboards and events. And there was a lot of animosity towards us from the alliances that we basically pushed, down the ranks. And these new players came in, and there was a rhetoric that started. It was an anti-BLK rhetoric. And nobody cared to stop it. And yet we were the ones expected to, follow the ROE. So here's what the biggest mistake was, and I'll clarify on that. When we formed BLK, we basically said to the server, this is what we need to do. There's going to be an ROE. The mistake was, perhaps it was a two-directional mistake. The server thought that the ROE was going to protect us, when in fact it actually protected the server from us. We noticed probably more so about 4 or 5 months after the new influx of players came in, there was a lot of this whole drama stuff building up, and people wanted to have community conferences, and they wanted to have a council, and all it did is spend hours of our time from God knows what time to when on Discord and argue with players, because everybody has to have their 2 cents in. And it just created more frustration than it was worth. And a lot of players would leave because they just didn't want part of the drama.
Gee, this sounds oddly familiar. I feel like I've been through this before.
I would see this being cyclic in all of the servers at one point or another.
Yeah, we went through the exact same thing.
Yeah, so Gregor at the time, he had been in a couple of alliances, and they weren't progressing very well because their leadership was dragging them down. Their leadership had a bone to pick with BLK. And that's actually been this sounds mean maybe, but it's been the demise of many of the alliances, and the reason that they struggled to progress at times because they were focusing on us, right? They weren't focusing on their game. And it's like the old phrase, winners focus on winning and losers focus on winners. So, yeah, it hurts your game when your entire intent is to try to, beat one alliance instead of playing your game and progressing as you should be.
That is extremely well said.
And that's partially what happened on our server, too. I think Nona was hated for a very long time for winning all the events and having the most powerful players. And I know, hearing all the background chatter, none of this, none of that on our server. So I could definitely see where that is a very negative aspect of the gameplay, where you have one alliance that's so powerful, wins everything. There's no parity, there's no competition, and people want to take them down, but they're too strong and end up losing and then quitting.
It's because people start taking things personally. That was a big thing. When you start taking the game personally and you let the drama get to you, it clouds your ability to find the enjoyment in the game. And a lot of people at that point just say, you know what, enough, I'm done. I'll go back to Farmville or whatever their preferred method of internet gameplay. This is my first big mobile online game I've actually played, so it's kind of weird. But for me, I never thought I'd be playing a game like this long, ever.
I'm right there with you. You're saying exactly the same thing that I'm experiencing. I've never played a mobile game like this, or for that long, or with this amount of social interaction, if you will. All the games that I've always ever played have been, you either purchase it outright first, and then there are no microtransactions, and then, or it's free with ads, and you just play the game and then turn it off whenever you want. This is definitely a little more different.
I'm going to say this game is just as bad. Forget ads; they're called banners. It's the same thing. Turn them off. I'd pay to turn those off.
Oh yeah,
I hate that.
Yeah, but why make $5.99 on someone just trying to get rid of some ads when you can make $100 minimum a month from most of your players?
Oh, it's a fantastic business proposition, that's for sure.
Do you want your enterprise to shoot blue fucking bullets? $99.99.
Yeah, but that'd be too direct for the system for Scopely. They got to be a little more subtle. Like, we're going to give you free, 98 out of 100. But if you want the last two, it's going to cost you 99.
How do you subtly place it in a rectum with no lube, buddy? There's no subtlety.
Well, I think Scopely thinks they're being subtle, but they're not.
So I can't confirm that this is true or not, but Scopely owns a lot of other games, a lot of other mobile games, and same kind of business model where they hike up the prices for everything. But somebody mentioned to me, because they own, I think it's like Scrabble with Friends or Words with Friends or something, and I think someone told me that they offered the letter Z for a $99 pack, and I couldn't hold myself. I just started laughing hysterically.
But if it turned out to be true, no one let's put it this way, none of the 10 or 11 people that are in here right now would be surprised. We would just shrug our shoulders and go, that sounds about right.
But and not to be, on the Scopely side of things, but if you don't have a revenue stream coming in of some sort, you got no game.
Well, it's not only that, right? I've also said this before, and just in case people missed it, I'll say it one more time, and I'll TLDR it. Basically, here's how it is. If everything was cheap, we'd all be level 50, and then we'd stop playing the game because we'd get bored. So it's priced in such a way that makes, like, if something is forever unobtainable, like that last level, so by the time you get close to the last level, then they extend that level. Obviously at that point they're going, well, yeah, if you want to spend $100,000, yeah, go ahead. We can go ahead and do that, and you can go ahead and get there and sit there. But for most of us, who even me, someone who spends some money occasionally, that's never going to happen. I'm never going to max out everything. And so that's a perfect model for them to be able to continually, you can always have something that you're working toward, always have something you can work to achieve. You max out all your research and everything, and it's like, okay, what do I do now? You just sit there, well, you get bored.
And we as players appreciate those who spend the kind of dollars like that to keep the game going.
Going back to Gregor and your server and BLK and whatnot. So, God, where were we before we got sidetracked?
The big mistake.
The big mistake. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Big mistake.
You were trying to. So okay, let me ask you this then. The big mistake is, did you tell people, like everybody on the server, like this is the server row, or did you have anybody else provide input? And was that the point of the tension that happened?
We tried to bring in a lot of the admirals. We tried to talk with them. There was a lot of animosity towards us, so a lot of admirals were like, "No, and take a hike. We don't want to talk to you." And the ones that did, they looked at it as some sort of a safety screen. But then, of course, everyone wants their input, right? Well, if we're going to have an ROE, then we want warships to be safe. We never want to get hit. You can't hit us at all. We want our stations safe. Like, it just spiraled out of control. And so we just said, no, this is what the ROE is going to be. And a few of the stronger alliances agreed to it. So we pretty much had 4 alliances that agreed that this was going to be the ROE. And everybody else had to just deal with it. It's all we could do at the time, right? We had the power. So in the end, he who has the power makes the rules. And but that was our first mistake. And it was because the whole hindsight thing. We didn't realize it was a mistake at the time. So as more and more players started moving in, because this is just before the server opened up again for new players. So we finally, after all the fighting and everything we went through, it finally calmed down. And then all of a sudden, a whole bunch of new players showed up. And they showed up with an established ROE. So suddenly, the ROE went from being something we fought for and worked for and came to agreements on to an entitled ROE. You're in the server, therefore you're entitled to this ROE. So new alliances popped up, and they just got the ROE. It wasn't, and of course there's always the players who want to break ROE, but we became the target. And don't get me wrong, we were not near perfect at keeping to ROE. We had players that would do stupid stuff all the time, but you do the best you can, right? The game's voluntary. I can't force you to do anything. All I can do as an admiral is kick you out. And that just makes it worse for everybody.
Okay, so what was the ROE that you guys established, and what did these new players bring with them that caused this conflict?
So the ROE game it was always simple. The idea was keep it simple, the whole KISS method. No empty survey hits. We did an OPC of minimum 300. At the time, 300 was a lot because it still took you like 6 minutes to mine that. We weren't at these high speed, 25K an hour type mining ships, right? So 300 became kind of the number to go to. Armadas hadn't started yet. There's basically no empty hits. If you wanted to zero node somebody, you had to give them a 5-minute warning. Seemed fair. Stations are always, unshielded station gets hit. And warships are always fair game. So once we had that kind of started out, very simple. So warships always fair. Doesn't matter what they are. Just as the warship, it's fair. And survey ships were protected. The only time that they were hittable was if they were actively raiding a station or they were OPC.
Right.
It was simple. But then the newer alliances came in and we want this. We want that. We think this should be here. Oh, this person is doing this. This person is doing that. Now, this is also, when they came in, we didn't have the attack direction, like who attacked who. And so you have to go through battle logs, and they had just started battle logs at the time, so they were still pretty confusing. So there was a lot of alliances, these newer alliances, that would have bait screenshots. They would, their guy would go out there and he'd wander around with a survey ship and then run into somebody's, warship and then cry out for an E-hit. So a lot of that kind of stuff started, and it got to the point where you'd spend 2 or 3 hours in a chat with 7 or 8 people who are just throwing their opinion at you, telling you you're wrong, and it got to the point where it's like, enough's enough. We don't want to hear this anymore. Now, at the time, Gregor was actually active in these chats. So Gregor didn't really start playing the game until he was about Ops 38. So he wasn't really grinding. He was just kind of there. It wasn't until the jellyfish came out where all of a sudden he was like, oh, I want that. And then all of a sudden, because at the point when we saw Gregor win the jellyfish event, our first question in our alliance was, who's Gregor? Like, we had never really seen this player. Like, where did he come from? And it was kind of funny at the time. Like, who's this guy? Like, here's all of us. We think we know everybody. We've been fighting everyone for so long, and there's this guy named Gregor with a jellyfish. Man, lucky him. And he also got a lucky pull on an epic guess, so he ended up with 2 jellyfishes pretty quick early on. Like you just said before about, if you don't really need it, you're gonna end up with it.
Right. Okay, so he became pretty active in these discussions, and what side was he on at the time? I'm guessing this is the time where you and him were girlfriends together, I guess.
No, this is before. We were just starting the whole, the flirty text messages.
Oh, okay, right. Sure.
So he was in an alliance.
Just a shoulder here and there. No, nothing new. Just a shoulder, maybe an ankle or so, right?
Yeah, of course. They were still considered kosher pictures in 1947. Right.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure is the year Gregor was born. Don't quote me on that, but So, anyways, Gregor found that the alliance he was in wasn't progressing, so he decided to form another one and start. And he actually ended up taking quite a few players with him, and he formed a new alliance. And after a few months, like, we always had pretty good relations. There's always the fighting, and we had one player. So I jumped ahead here for a second. I shouldn't have. We had one player that was left over from the olden days, and this is Zay. Now there was quite a few players that did nothing but just grief the server nonstop. Like, that's all they wanted to do. They didn't care, and because it benefited us at the time to nullify the empty hitting, because it was us getting hit as well as everybody else. It was it felt like it was up to us to deal with it, because nobody else would. That whole situation where we need something done, but nobody else is going to do it. That was us. So we slowly pushed these E-hitters either into alliances where they were forced into an ROE, or, just essentially out of the game. And I mean, that sounds mean, but these players literally only came on just to cause grief, and they're really much of a player. But we had to keep one. And we took him into our alliance, being that he was one of the founders of the merged alliance as it was. He likes to have fun, and this is Zay. In order to keep Zay from going around and terrorizing the entire server, we had to keep him in our alliance, because no other alliance wanted him at the time. Like, simply put, nobody else wanted him because they didn't want the headache. Great, we'll have the headache. So he was used as kind of like a weapon towards us whenever it came to ROE discussions. They did this or they did that. We did, and it was corrected. Can we move on? People couldn't move on. That was the problem. They got stuck in this cyclic loop of, he did this to me 3 months ago, therefore, it got old really fast. And by this point now, Gregor, we've been talking, he's got his new alliance going, he's in leadership. And he actually is the one who suggested that the whole server ROE dropped. He's like, you know what, this isn't working. Why do we have the server ROE? So that's kind of how it started. He's not taking enough credit for his action in helping slowly erode a lot of the systems that were there. And people fought it because they believed that they were entitled to ROE. So when BOK announced that we're no longer going to run a server-wide ROE, we said, we're not going to tell you how to play, but we're going to tell you how we're going to play. And we continued to play under the ROE that we initially had established. Like, we just kept playing the same. We didn't change. And we still haven't. Like, there's been amendments when the Armadas came in. And initially, Armadas were new. So the general agreement was, let's just leave Armadas alone. And you're going to laugh, because this is, as Gregor would like to say, BLK is not going to tell you anything truthful. After Armadas had been around for a while, Gregor pushed to drop the agreement for Armadas. And we eventually came to the agreement that, okay, we'll just, uncommon Armadas can be targeted. Now, we were being proactive, so those conversations were happening. And to be proactive, being that if BLK says it's going to happen and they'll make the changes accordingly, we announced that we were going to no longer protect all armadas, just rares and uncommons. And Gregor posts right.
You mean rares and epics?
Oh, sorry, rares and epics. Thank you. And Gregor posts behind that the posting, and he says, "Yeah, we agree to this. This is how we're going to play." So now you have the two strongest alliances saying the same thing. This is how we're going to play. The reason we did it, though, was because we knew that if we didn't agree to it, Gregor and the players he had with him would just start doing it anyways. So by making the changes, it gave us an ability to strike back. Because you don't want to fight a one-sided battle, right? Oh, they're hitting our armadas. Why can't we hit theirs back? Like you had to make the changes to compensate when you got the two battling alliances. You can't make it a one-sided affair. And it went pretty smoothly, actually. There wasn't a ton of people going after armadas. It happened a few times, but even now, it still doesn't happen very often. People generally just leave it alone. But it's small population too, right? If this is a busy server, we'd be taking out every uncommon armada. The whole point is a 50-minute timer. You start it, you defend it. But
so is this during the part where people started exiting, or that the exit happened later?
The exit started happening later on, noticeably more later on. The G4 stuff. When the G4 stuff happened, Gregor actually, him and Infinite Key came up with what we call the Gentleman's Agreement for Dark Space. So Gregor was the first up there, and he was mining all by himself, pretty much untouchable. Nobody was there. And then Key finally moved up to Dark, and they came up with an agreement to allow no survey. Well, actually, it was no hits on mining ships, whether it was a warship or a survey ship. And as it got discussed and it brought up more and more, it made more and more sense for early players because we didn't have the Frank A, we didn't have jellies, but guys who got there could send up even a warship to try to do daily mining for 4-star. And it was generally accepted that this is good because it helps advance everybody who gets there. So the Gentleman's Agreement came into place. They formed it. And it's kind of stuck. It never got put into ROE until actually recently because players on all sides like to push those boundaries. Well, if it's not in writing, then it's not an ROE. Okay, well, that's what we're going to have to do. But, yeah, so Gregor was a big proponent in creating some of the rules for things like Dark Space. It was sometimes by act of threat that changes had to be made to the ROE. And, yeah, it just kind of carried on. I don't really know where it went from there, aside from we've never changed our ROE. But it's been changed on us many times. We've been blamed for it many times.
So the G4 stuff caused an exodus. Why so? Do you know?
People had this impression that it wasn't fair. Like, it was the biggest thing I heard about some of the G4 is it's not fair. That was always a big thing. It's not fair that you guys aren't hitting each other up there, or it's not fair that you guys can mine and do this and all these ships. It's not. That was the biggest thing we would ever hear. It's not fair, or you're a bully. All of a sudden there's guys with jellyfishes and they're hitting, Intrepids and rares and epic G3 ships and not losing very often. So it became a not fair, and BLK are bullies because we would hit every warship whenever we had a chance. Still do. Yeah, we just became the bullies. And everybody, they look at us because we're winning, and since they're not able to figure it out.
I'm curious. I got a quick question. So
Sure.
if you're just out flying around doing your dailies and whatnot, and you see a warship floating around, are you guys just going to blow it up then?
100%. I don't care what crew I have on.
So everybody's kill on sight if it's a warship.
Yes. Now, not everybody does, right? It's just that over the time we've tended to bring in more and more of the players that are that kind of aggressive. We've grouped our team to be more on the aggressive side because that's how we win. right? We pick active players who are playing daily, who are not afraid to, win or lose against another ship. What's the point of the game otherwise? Why else would you, why do you mine materials? You mine materials so you can upgrade your stations, so you can upgrade your ships. Like, otherwise, what's the point of the game? And if you're going to send a ship out and leave it floating for 20 minutes in a system and you expect it to come back, or to be there when you get back, it seems
floating warships are fair game on our server as well. I was just curious if, say I'm in a regular enterprise and I'm just grinding hostiles in Taiga Core, and you fly into and you're grinding. We're both just grinding on other ends of the system. Are you going to come over and blow me up?
Probably. And if you're silly enough to sit there and wait for it, you're going to get hit.
Interesting.
Like, if you're actively playing and your ship is there and you see me moving towards you slowly, and you can see my ship maybe more powerful than yours or weaker, but your health is low, are you going to let me get closer knowing that I've already told everyone before that I'm just going to hit your warship on sight? Like, it'd be kind of silly to let me get that. Or you're active, so you can choose to warp. Now we have the ability of disco. You can disco your ship out, or you can go hit on the red, break targeting lock. I mean, there's so many things you can do, but most people just sit there and take the hit and then complain about it. That's the problem.
I will say this: we don't play like that because we see it as being a dick. Because it didn't gain you anything aside from just blowing somebody up that you could. I mean, if it's a no loot, don't shoot mentality. So if you're gonna get something out of the hit, then by all means hit. But if you're not gonna get anything out of it, then why do it? You're just griefing people for no reason. And I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Space is a dangerous place. If you're flying around a warship, hitting Packles or, Klingons, I mean, nobody complains about the Federation war army that takes them out when they go into a system. They message Scopely and say, Scopely, it's not fair that I've got a hunter in faction space. No, you deal with it. You get away from it. I'm sure people do, actually. They probably do message Scopely and say how unfair it is that a 14 million power war army came after their 700k Saladin. But
it's just a game mechanic of the game. And if your entire server plays that way, then I guess I don't see a problem with it. But I will say that it's not conducive to growth, and I would hazard a guess that that's why your server has low population.
Well, I'll jump in there and say that, there are some examples, and I just posted up. I was talking there to Infinite Key there. There are some examples of times that we're going to do that. I know Handy and I sometimes will end up in systems together, and apparently Handy's making a smoothie. There's some times where we'll be trying to sit at a spawn node, just minding our own business, grinding hostiles, and somebody will move in and start sniping our kills. I'll absolutely blow your ship up then, because that's kind of a dick move. Go away. But the fact that these hostiles respawn constantly, it's not like you're missing out on an opportunity to kill anything. And so what that's going to do is that shifts the whole idea, and it's like, this particular alliance, they do this thing. So once word gets around, I mean, you're never going to have those instances where people, for example, if I go into a system and somebody's OPL by 1,000, no matter what it is, I'm not going to hit them. It's just not worth it. It's chump change. There's no point in doing it. But if you're that type of alliance that just constantly blows up warships everywhere you go, I'm not going to let you go OPL 1. I'm not going to let anything. If I see your miner returning home, you know what I'm saying? If it's OPL by 3, I'm going to hit it. If your base is unshielded, I'm just going to hit it relentlessly. So I think what it does is, at the end of the day, in our experience, it just makes it harder on your alliance because it turns kind of the whole server against you,
It's not conducive to growth.
We pretty much started with the server against us anyway, so it was no big deal. No change, it seems. But here, I'll give a really good example. So a player that is currently in Gregor's alliance and has been with Gregor for a long period of time. So you know how everyone always thinks the biggest alliance is the griefing and this and that. But there's a player in his alliance that spent over 8 months, almost a year, solely and only targeting our guys at every point and juncture, whether it was Swarm Sundays, whether it was any hostile grinding. He basically, and still to this day, I mean, he's calmed down a little bit, but he only targeted our players. His entire gameplay, so this is in Gregor's alliance, not ours. His entire gameplay was based around hitting us, so he could get his power destroyed to the number 1 spot, only hitting our ships.
It's ridiculous. All he did was shoot himself in the foot for an arbitrary number that means absolutely nothing. And the entire time he wasted his time hunting you instead of growing his account.
100%. So while this player does this, our guys want to fight too. They want to strike back. So what do? They go after the alliance he's in. And instead of him saying, hey, to his alliance, hey guys, I just hit 10 BLK ships, watch for retaliation, he'd log off. Or he would wait and he would say, after his guys start reporting hits, he'd be like, oh, okay, I'll go after a BLK. I'll avenge you. Like it was just so stupid. So we would have this animosity on warships all the time because this one player specifically, would hunt all of our players all the time. So we would return the favor, but then we're the bad guys. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really jive, and it creates a lot of frustration. So over time, though, Gregor and I had talked a lot, and he says, okay, well, I'll try to get him to calm down. We basically taught our guys to always expect to be hit, which was really good because we're waiting for a server merger. So we're waiting for the chaos to come back, but it's how we started as well. You started out with the same chaos. So we've kept our guys, you get hero warship hit, don't want to hear about it. Go hit back.
So is that gameplay? Did that gameplay kind of lead people to leaving the game? Is that what happened?
It's very possible to some extent, sure. I think a lot of players got bored too, though.
I'm just trying to understand. You were a busy server. If you said you were about 1,500 people, and now you're down to 400, I mean that's a pretty big exodus. And I was just trying to get at why is it that your server population is so low?
Well, I was going to say it's probably my fault, but I don't think it totally is. No, it's
well, now we can blame BLK for everything.
Yeah, that's been the rhetoric though for absolutely everything. So here's a fun example. In the number 2 alliance at the time, again, Gregor's alliance, always number 2 alliance. The player that he talked about last time that he chose to not kick or demote from Commodore, used to start camping. He would camp mission points, and with the agreement, and Gregor was very much the agreement that survey ships were protected. So if you're doing missions, you're running a survey ship, have on it, carry on. But this player would continually like to, we're gonna change the rules. But then he would tell everybody to ask ntsy. Ntsy said it was okay. It was his change. Like, no, it wasn't. Same thing with a unilateral decision, right? Blame BLK, right? But then there's a unilateral decision that BB's on wrong nodes. So Gregor's alliance, only specifically a couple players in it. It was never the whole alliance, but his alliance all of a sudden accepted that, Botany Bays on wrong nodes became targets. You could hit them empty. And then they would start doing this. And then when the question came up, it's like, oh, it was BLK. It was BLK's idea. This is their ROE. It was never ROE. We never changed our ROE. But it would happen all the time. And, people would be in their little bubbles. And it was a whole not focusing on your game, but focusing on, the other alliance. And I think a lot of guys had some burnout. There's players that I've talked to that were under that kind of influence where, everyone in BLK is bad. They're all just a bunch of dicks and this and that. And some of those players have come to join us, and they're like, "Well, this isn't what we thought it was at all."
If you can't beat them, join them.
Right? Well, we've recruited guys like that before.
The way you guys play, if you're not at the top, you're getting stepped on, and that's why your server has such low population.
Well, Handy, you in Nona. I mean, so ntsy. When you got to look at, for example, Nona's obviously the number one alliance in our server, and then so Dark is the number two, and we happen to be allies, right? But if you look at Nona and their power, the top 10 players in our server, 5 of them are in Nona, and then like 2 or 3 of them are in Dark. So Nona has the power, right? And what they've done is they actually try extra hard to really not kind of, if people are accusing them of something, they've really undergone a lot to try not to feed into that and to try to do the opposite, because people are, they're butthurt, they're jealous, they're whatever the case may be. And they hate them, so they make up all these rumors. But rather than just going, "Oh, screw it, everybody hates us anyway, let's just go ahead and do this," they actually try really hard to not fall into that and to not do it. And I mean, and it's made a world of difference. I mean, there's a lot of people that used to hate on them for no reason that are now going around and chatting them up and GC and all this stuff. So, I mean, yeah, I think that if you have your number one alliance, like Handy was saying, and you guys are just like, if you're not first, you're last, that type of thing. I mean, you end up losing a lot of players, and then your server just kind of becomes boring, in my opinion.
It just dries up and fizzles out.
Good Talladega Nights reference. I like that, Kirk.
It's more than that, though. This is where the personal stuff comes in. Like, for example, even to this day, our guys will hit, a warship floating or this or that, and the messages, the love notes that come back, like, some of the stuff is disgusting. And we have fought, in my opinion, we have fought pretty hard with alliances and with our own players to just cut the stupid messages. One of the players in Gregor's current alliance used to be in our alliance, and we kicked him out, and he went from being all friendly to the point where one of our players who was suffering from COVID at the time, we were doing like a little in-server in-game vigil, and we had a lot of the alliances there. This player specifically says, "Well, I don't care, I hope he dies." Well, what are we supposed to do about that? Well, we're going to target that player for making those stupid comments. Like, when you start making the game personal, you stop enjoying the game. And I don't even think I can go into half the stuff that's even sent to us with keeping it a PG-rated show.
Well, this is definitely not a PG-rated show. Go ahead, do share.
even a 14A rated show.
Actually, Infinite Key just posted the top power. Gregor's number 1, and then Sect 2, Sect 3, BLK 4, and Gregor's alliance number 5. So it's kind of evened out, actually, between the top 3 alliances.
It's easy for somebody who's not in the top to make it sound like, the number 1 alliance is purely dominant, and we're not. We've never really been, we've never had the top players. We never had the most powerful players in our alliance. We just have the guys that are active, that are enjoying the game together. We wouldn't be where we are in the server if it wasn't for the guys in the team. You can't, one player, no matter how strong they are, can't truly affect an alliance as much as they think they can. You know what I mean?
That is true for the most part. But a player can definitely distract and kind of take over the narrative for a period of time.
No, I'm not gonna share. One of the things we ran into recently was a player. Nah, I'm not gonna get into this. This is just, I'm not gonna call players out. We've had some instances where players have sent messages that are just absolutely terrible and disgusting, and we've brought them to Gregor, who at the time, he was still kind of, in the Alliance as a boss. And he just said, well, they're just words. They're not just words.
Well, I don't agree with that. I mean, being incredibly nasty and saying really mean things, especially things that are against terms of service, are not okay.
And I understand how he likes to say, you just use the block button. If we just use the block button, we'd have probably half the server blocked at this point. It doesn't really work.
Yeah. I will say, though, I really believe that it depends on what your goal is, right? So if your goal is to just focus on your alliance and your alliance alone, then I guess I don't really have a problem with the way you guys play. But if you are concerned about overall server health and you would like your server to grow and you would like people to stay and play, I think you guys are going about it all wrong, to be totally honest.
See, I think that's a bit of a misconception. We currently have a chat that Gregor is not involved in. He chose to step back from leadership role. So we have discussions, and there's there's 6 alliances in there. We chat more often than not. And it wasn't until these alliances dropped their, when your back's up against the wall because you think something, they finally, dropped their guard a little bit and actually started to get to know us as players. And they realized that we weren't what they thought we were, just because they're going off of what one person or a few other people have said. So when you're operating on bad info, it's very difficult for us to get through. So there's another alliance.
NC, real quick. Did they let you off the hook?
Well, I never asked to be let off the hook.
I guess you can get my reference.
No.
Shout out to Dennis Green. We are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook. All right, sorry, continue.
There's a smaller alliance now that they reformed after Gregor's old alliance imploded, and a lot of players split up, and they reformed. And it took a little bit while because they were under the impression that we hated them and we targeted them because we hated them. That's what they thought, and it wasn't all of them. It was just something that a few of them would say. But of course, when there's a one-sided conversation, you only hear the one side of the conversation. It took a little bit of time, but finally getting a chance to talk with these guys and just explain to them why we are the way we are. They've changed their gameplay to adapt, and they're actually having more fun.
I believe that.
They realize, okay, yeah, it's a game for starters. Keep it as a game. Keep the personal attacks out of the game. You got your ship blown up. Who cares? Repair it and go again. Once you stop treating it as everything that this alliance does to us is a personal attack, therefore I must strike back with, vulgar words or, weird actions. Actually, here's an interesting thing you guys might find. When Territories first came out, we told the server that we were not playing ROE in Territories at all. Now, we didn't explain why. We didn't elaborate on it. We just said, we're not playing ROE. Go in there, smash everybody up. Whatever you want to do, we don't care. Keep it in the territory. So prior to this, we always had a problem from our own guys in our alliance, as well as other alliances. Guys would just drop to E-hit because they felt that they weren't getting satisfaction on perhaps a resolution or a war didn't go their way. So I'm not done with it. I'm going to drop them in E-hit. So when Territories came out, we announced we're not going to have an ROE in Territories. It's just free for all. Let's have some fun. Except Gregor approached me and said, "Hey, can we have ROE?" And okay, sure. Well, we gave one alliance ROE. So we had one allied alliance, which is Sect, and then Gregor's alliance. We gave them ROE. Just because it really wasn't so much the griefing, and I think Gregor wanted to mine ISO and peaceful. Although we didn't get that because we were basically no ROE with everybody else. And for a while, it was chaotic, and everyone had their tempers flared. And then I explained it. Look, the amount of people dropping to E-hit outside of territories basically went to zero. All of a sudden, everybody in the rest of the galaxy, because territories is optional, the rest of the galaxy became, safe again. It stopped being a problem. And it was from not just, other players, but even our own players from dropping to E-hit because it gave them an outlet. And we did. We took a lot of the more aggressive players into our alliance who are aggressive. They want to go blow stuff up. So this way they were contained. Territories became in containment, like an arena, right? Like a hockey rink. And when I play a game, I want to be able to get on the ice and have some fisticuffs, and then after the whistle blows, go out and have some beers. Like that's how I want to play the game. It should never be personal. So over time, territories started to erode. Alliances realized that, okay, it's not worth doing these E-hitting things. And we ourselves, too, we slowly pulled back less and less. There were still a few guys who would go out and they would clear territories. I was like, all right, well, heads up, guys, because our territory is about to get cleared by these guys right away. And sure enough, the other alliances would strike back. And it was good. It was frustrating at times, but it was good. And it wasn't only until recently.
Is it still like that?
Oh, nope, not anymore. It was only about a month ago. If things had calmed down a fair bit, like nobody was really doing it anymore. And I just said, okay, guys, that's it. We're going to play ROE. We're not going to tell the other alliances that we're playing ROE. We're just going to start doing it. Everybody else can continue to think what they want, but we're now going to stick to ROE and territories. And we haven't had the problems that we used to have pre-territories. People still aren't dropping to E-hit. It's really calmed down. And when I had a chance to explain that with a few of the other admirals, they took a step back and they said, yeah, you're right. Things really did change. Even though it seemed at the time, super aggressive, it kind of let that burn out again, something that a lot of the newer players maybe missed out on. But it kept it optional, right? You didn't have to be in territories. You can mine 1-star ISO and a whole bunch of other places if that's what you wanted. And it made territories fun. And now territories are boring because nobody does anything.
It is very, very true. Territory zone has become very, very boring.
Let me get this straight. You've had basically a free-for-all that everybody really wanted because there was so much pent-up aggression. And now they got that aggression out and everybody's kind of chilled out for the most part.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So you just needed an outlet for all your guys, I guess, way back when, and your server would still have been full. I guess hindsight, right?
Well, yeah, hindsight. A lot of the players that came in, for example, when Gregor did, like I said, they came into an ROE. So they didn't experience what we did from, day one of the game. So the territories gave a lot of those players a chance to just do it without consequence in territory. And, I would talk a lot with some of the players one-on-one. They'd be like, hey, this isn't fair. And I'd be like, well, you know what? You can come back and you can smack our guys off nodes. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're not saying you can't, but, just do it instead of complaining about it, right? But yeah, it's the whole general mood of the server. Definitely, it calmed down. Like the whole dropping to E-hit thing calmed down. Territories has calmed down, and we're using what little takeovers that do happen. We're using those as PvP outlets and lagging the server out so badly that your ship is on two sides of the screen at the same time.
Now that the server's calmed down, or at least you say it's calmed down, Gregor may say something else. Although I think he kind of telegraphed the same sentiment. Where do you feel that the server is going to go? And you excited about the new TNG content and hopefully getting the Enterprise D at some point?
Not overly. I've been so far my most favorite of everything Scopely's done is the Frank A. Yeah, with the Stella as the second. Those two, those have the most impact for your game then and now and future.
The Franklin A rewards for those new biominerals are freaking awesome.
A lot of the newer players coming in don't realize how good they have it with the reward payouts. Like there was a point in time when the Vault of Latinum was actually the most cost-effective way of getting Latinum. That's how sad it was. The things that are offered now, like new players are advancing faster than ever before, and you put the time into the game, and you can go there. And right now, like we've got alliances that are all kind of broken up. We're telling them, look, band together, get your guys practiced in PvP. Like when it comes to a merger, and I hope this stands true. I know it does with most of the server, but when we have a merger, it's going to be server 9 first because it's going to be a free for all.
Yeah, see, this is where Gregor made some very weird comment where you don't think people will defect, and I'm like, no, man, like the people that you've been warring with, you're going to band together against an existential threat. It's then all of your all that's settled, then all of your internal crap will come back up again. But you're going to be banded together by your server.
I think that with the players that are left, we've got a lot of really, really good players in all the alliances. We've got a pretty good rapport now, in my opinion. Obviously, we've got a pretty good rapport with the majority of players. There's a few outlying players that might be our fault for creating some pretty chaotic type players, but generally it's pretty good. We do have a few instances, and Gregor touched on the one with an Armada Steel. And to clarify that one, it was an epic Armada that Gregor's teammate started less than 2 seconds after it was failed. And at that point, I authorized basically a take back on it. And I personally went out there and I cleared their players and restarted the Armada so our guys could finish it.
Were you able to finish it?
We were, yeah. But it was the most fun we've had in a long time. Now this is going to sound really weird.
It is fun. PvP is fun as long as everybody is being a good sport about it.
One of their players, and this fella, he's an aggressive player. He can be a lot of fun to play against. He actually kept trying to keep us from winning the Armada the second time. And we didn't bother calling on it. Like the whole situation happened. But it was fun. Like he had his disco system over, so we were trying to track his disco. We were trying to catch him coming in. So he's been really smart coming in different angles. And the stupid Armada was like right on the edge of the system, right? So you come in and you're like right there. And it was fun. Like PvP can be so much fun, but players either it's been brainwashed into them, maybe that's the wrong word, but it's been pushed on them that PvP is bad and this is supposed to be a mining game. And those players, you're constantly butting heads with those types of players, but every once in a while, a player who wants to PvP, whether he's just angry out of something or not, gives us a chance to play. It's fun. And no matter how terrible the situation was for all involved, it was enjoyable. Now, there was no Armada event running other than, I believe there was the start an Armada and complete whatever the event was. It wasn't for winning, it was just for starting it. So their players still finished his event from starting it, but 1,500 Epic Directas went out for that one.
Well, I think it's very interesting, and it sounds like a fun server to play on.
It can be. It's
although
the only
I
time
can
it becomes.
see it sounds like it's the extreme of the spectrum on both sides. So it can be extremely frustrating with people that complain about not having Farmville and then it can be extremely fun with having constant PvP whenever you want it.
This is part of the problem, though, with knowing everybody in the server. Like, when you get to the point where, like I said, it becomes family, right? Your alliance becomes family. You know, players you play with, you know them, you talk to them all the time on all sides. And there's a group of players that slowly got pushed into the same alliance, and they're the ones that we know are the ones that like to send these terrible messages, and can't block them all. But yeah, don't make it personal. That's the only thing I could ever say about this is stop making it personal. It's, you know, we don't attack your ships because we personally have a problem with you. We do it because it's there and it's part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you people that start taking it personally, they just have to be reminded now and again, you know?
Gregor used to be very active in that. He used to be very much on board, but lately he's taken a step back and he doesn't want to be in the server politics part. And like he's actually been pushing to get the dark space agreement dropped right as a lot of players are moving up into dark. And it doesn't matter to him.
It's more competitive, so...
Well, it doesn't matter to him, though. The only reason that he wants it is because now other players are finally reaching the nodes that he's on, and now he wants to have easier access to them. Because, you know, some of those high warp systems have like 3 nodes in them. So he used to have them exclusively to himself, and now he doesn't. So, well, now he wants to drop to just go regular ROE in dark space, but it's only him. So we brought it up with the admirals group. There's like 6 or 7 alliances in there. And they all said, well, we haven't gotten to dark, or we're just getting to dark, and it benefits our players to have that agreement. And we agree with that. So we're happy to hold that agreement for all the newer players in there. It helps the whole server, right? It's not a singular person's need or want.
Right.
All right, let's I think we've talked a lot, and hopefully we dispelled some of those Gregor myths, although I do challenge him to come on at the same time as you and see if we can do some old ex-girlfriend fighting, I guess.
Yeah, I was hoping he would, because he's awesome.
I would love to see some arguments, like some screaming at each other. That would be great if you could make that happen.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
So also don't forget
definitely...
tech. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Okay, I was gonna say, don't forget, I got my my friend Jim. Yeah, I discussed with him coming on and just talking about general Trek stuff too. Right. So
yeah. No, I definitely want to get him on. Talk about, we're gonna nerd on in some Star Trek. He's got a podcast.
Yeah, he does. He's got a show called the 50% Facts Podcast. I mean, he's been in podcasting for years, been in the fitness industry for years, and just genuinely a good person. But we had a conversation the other day, and I guess I never really paid much attention, but I mean, he really knows a lot about Star Trek, and he's been in and around it for quite a while. So I definitely would like to get him on at some point.
Sure. No, I want to get him on, and then Cook's gone, but Cook's officially an author now. His book was published as an ebook on Amazon, and he's going to get physical copies that you could buy from his restaurant store. And I'm going to have him on to talk about his book and his sci-fi, universe, if you will, which I think will be fun too. We'll be outside of the game for a little bit. But today, I thought this was great. I want to thank everybody, Dogs, Tiger, NC. Thanks for coming on, guys. I appreciate it. Obviously, I do want to see NC you back with Gregor at the same time, doing the cat fighting. And check out Server 9. I think they have an interesting way of playing, and I think it's probably unique to them that there is two ends of the spectrum. There's no hitting here, and then there's absolute hitting over there.
Yeah. Very, very interesting.
Another thing, Tech, I was thinking, for those people who are listening, if you're on Instagram, we do have an Instagram. It's just Trek Talk Podcast, and jump on there, post stuff up there. And I would also like to try to get people that are listening. Don't forget, every Sunday at 11 Eastern time. So 8 Pacific, we're here. We're doing an episode. We may do some other shows throughout the week as we plan, but this is our regular time slot. So feel free to jump in, and we invite people up from the audience to ask questions and engage all the time. So if you have something to say that we haven't covered, or you think we need to cover it, or something like that, shoot us a message. Jump in here, give it a listen, raise your hand, and let's see if we can get something going.
And it'll all be in the description. So check out the description. All right, guys. I want to thank everybody again. Handy, Kirk, you guys are awesome. Subscribe, like, comment, all those things. This has been Trek Talk with Tech and Kirk. I'm TechMan16.
StrangeKirk
and Handy.
And we'll see you guys next time.